Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are on the planet. Welcome to the Joy Show. I'm your host, Barbara Schreiner Trudell, and I am delighted to share with you the topic of the day and all the fun that we have. Joy is an acronym for just one you, and we celebrate you wherever you are, how you are. So let us begin with the land acknowledgement. So we work, live, and play on the historical and traditional territory of many Indigenous nations, including the Anishinaabe and Wendat peoples, and more recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee nations. As we gather here from many places on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. The Métis, the Inuit, and all Indigenous peoples. And though we're not of African descent, we are committed to continually acting in support of and in solidarity with Black communities seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black communities in Canada and the US. In support of creating belonging for all BIPOC, we acknowledge and the contribution made both in shaping and strengthening our communities and our countries. We couldn't do it without you. So by making this acknowledgement, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Well, I am so excited today to have my friend Enrico Colantoni, Canadian actor, here in the studio with us today. Born in Toronto of Italian immigrant parents, at 20, he went off to New York to become an actor. They were less than happy about that, but eventually came around when they saw how much he loved it and how great it was. He recently was on Broadway last year. Oh, that was very exciting. You might know him from Just Shoot Me, or from Flashpoint, one of my favorites, or maybe Person of Interest. Very different characters in all of those. Anyway, it is my great delight to introduce my friend, my colleague, and the wonderful Enrico Colantoni. Rico.
Hey, Rev. I love
So
that you consider me a colleague. What an honor.
I do. We're walking together in a way. You know, we were
Yeah,
talking before the show about the idea of belonging, and
yeah.
um,
Well, I
I
just
share.
want to say that part of me still feels like I'm waiting for you backstage, waiting to meet, you know, this great presence. And then, you know what I mean? So, colleague, I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I
Yeah.
love
What
that
were we
you.
talking about? That's what's going to happen, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk like we always talk.
Well, my hope is that people will have a better idea of you and I as a result of this show. They'll
Yes.
see that, we're all just people living life and doing what we do. And we were talking backstage before we started about belonging. And I remember I was sharing a story of when I met Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the book, The Four Agreements. And when I was having a conversation with him, he was so present with me. Like he just connected with me in a way that very few people do. In fact, I think I said I only have actually experienced that, from the celebrity type. I've only experienced it twice, and the other time was with you. I remember
Wow.
doing your wedding in 2011,
We just met. We
and
didn't even know each other when that
we
happened.
didn't know each other at all. I knew you
Yeah.
from Flashpoint. I
Yeah.
loved that show, and so you were my hero, but I didn't let that get in the way. Um, I don't do hero worship, but I really admired the show, and I loved
Uh,
performances. But what was interesting is I ran into you a couple years later in Starbucks, and when you realized who I was, you immediately connected with me in
mm,
a really real way. And
mm.
so there was this sense of belonging. And of course, we've come back together to work together in other ways now.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I just
That's my
love
favorite part.
I know, I love that we get to do this dance
Oh
together.
my
And I'm
goodness. Oh,
yeah, and I'm grateful that you're here on the show.
oh, thanks for having me. Again, this is my second time. I think I'm a veteran of the Joy Show
You
now.
are. Last time
I
was
know.
right after Broadway. That was just,
What? Yeah,
oh,
no, that was an exciting time.
oh my gosh,
That we're a year beyond that now.
we
And I've
are.
just been studying with you. I want the world to know that I've been studying under you.
Yes,
And
you have.
I'm on my way to practitioner training in September.
Yes.
And the lessons and I mean, these classes have just been remarkable. How they, what did we just finish? We just finished exploring roots of science of mind, and
Yes.
knowing that Emerson had an effect on Holmes, and Thomas Troward had an effect on him, and Emma Curtis Hopkins had an effect on him, and how they all echoed each other helps me understand, Holmes's writing so much more, and the change in perception of they're all if they all echo each other, then the formula, because I think in terms of what the technique is, because I come from a theater background, and
Yeah.
when I approach a character, I always rely on my trust in the technique.
Yeah.
And when you have a technique, it doesn't matter how you're feeling, you can always fall back on it. And
Exactly.
the notes to understanding, I don't even know what to call it: science of mind, science of God, science of the spirit, science of life, science of what is real. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like when the notes become clearer, like how you access it, how you just activate it. When it
Mm.
just becomes about identifying what is good in your life. When we
Mm.
begin to identify the things, like it doesn't matter. Like 2 years ago, I could have looked at this weather and thought it was like, oh, it's the worst weather in the world. But and I might immediately start with that, but then you go, no, 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 no. There's beauty here, and I'm going to find it.
It, and I think when you're looking for it, you do find
Yeah, I
it.
do find it. That
Yes.
that's
Yes.
why it's absolute, right? It's really
Yeah.
absolute. And I feel I just feel like I want to get on a rooftop and start yelling this, just screaming it at the top of my lungs. I'm sure you felt that way when it hit you,
I
you
did. I
know.
did. It's interesting how life changes when we shift our perspective, because
Oh
that's
yeah.
really all we do in the science of mind is we take responsibility for our lives. We look at it through a new lens. So we're beginning to see beauty where before we might have just seen a cloudy gray day. Today we're willing to go, no, let me look past that. How can I find beauty in this day? Well, I find beauty in this interaction. So I think, when we just are willing to be with what is and to allow our authentic voice to come out, let people see us, stop being so afraid of being seen. I think that's a big step moving forward is we come to a place of being, belonging together. Because I really believe we're all connected. So how do we belong?
Wow. I mean, that's alternate universe thinking, you know. I mean, it is. And
Yeah.
I I mean, I grew up in a specific denomination of Christianity, and I never felt more separate from everybody else,
Yes.
or from the divine, or another human being. It was always, even those moments where we showed a sign of peace at that particular time during a mass service.
Yeah.
There was always fear. You always felt another person's fear when they looked at you.
And that's unfortunate because I think for me, spirituality is about connection. I have a belief that, we live in an infinite universe that is just one thing and we all live in it. And it's we're part of it. It's part of us. It's kind of like the wave on the ocean, right? And because of that, we're all connected. So what I do matters. What I do with other people matters. This is where my social justice comes from, is that I want to see belonging. I want to see harmony. I want to see people connecting and acknowledging and admiring each other and being willing to be vulnerable, to open our minds and hearts so that we can connect, that we can get to know each other.
I mean, I agree with you 110%. And I come from a theater background. For
Yeah.
40 years, I've been studying everything you're saying, but from an actor's perspective and an actor's approach.
Hmm.
But essentially, you know, the training I received was all about making positive choices,
Yeah.
affecting your partner in a positive way, because we all want something. And the
Yes.
first thing you learn as an actor is identifying what you want and how you get it and how you feel when you get it and all those things.
Yeah.
We have that technique of how to affect the world, how to affect your partner to get what you want. It seems like a selfish sort of manipulation, but when we understand the whole creative process of everything, aren't we working in harmony with the creator? Don't we? Doesn't it need us as much as we need it?
Its expression is through
You
us.
know what I
So
mean? Yeah, as I mean, isn't isn't God just applauding every time we recognize beauty? Aren't we doing it? Aren't we helping it feel life? Aren't we through us? Aren't we? You know what
exactly.
I mean? And
Exactly.
it applauds every time. Every time we discover an aha moment or
Yeah,
recognize beauty, it tickles it.
it
And
does.
the same thing happens when you're not only an actor but a musician or a painter. It's like you
Yeah,
fall into the technique of it and you're aligned with that creativity. And
exactly.
the one issue that I have with any award show is that it just perpetuates the competitive model. You know, you forget that there are there's like 5 nominees.
You know what's funny is when I was watching the Oscars, I thought, now maybe I should be on the red carpet doing the interviews because frankly, some of them were mind-numbingly boring. It's like,
And
"What are you
tell me,
wearing?" "I don't care. I wanna
I
know who
know the
you
whole
are,"
wearing thing.
right?
I know. But
"Hi,
if they
Wayne from Calgary."
they get it unconsciously, right? It all comes from a creative source. We're all being creative,
Yeah,
but to separate the winner from the losers sort of undermines the whole
it does.
collective creativity of it. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, one day when I receive my award,
Yeah.
I'll have to acknowledge that. You know what I mean? I'll have to acknowledge the fact that I won the minute I got this job.
There.
You know what I
Now
mean?
that's what I you know, that's the reality. When we do what we love to do, that in and of itself is the gift. So why do we need competition?
I so you're absolutely right. I don't know why, and it's hard to fathom that one person's performance is better than another person's performance. It's like that just blows my mind. It's like really. I mean, it was a great performance, but and that's what the Theater World Awards do in New York.
Yeah.
I received a Theater World Award last year for my
Yes,
performance
you
on
did.
Broadway. And the thing is that they honored a lot of people.
Mhm.
Everybody won.
Yeah.
Everybody got up there and got to say thank you. I wasn't waiting to see if I won anything. They just said, here,
Nice.
we acknowledge what you did up there. It's just like, and with 20 other people. It
But
was
isn't
like,
that lovely?
yeah, yeah,
That it's a team that creates the whole collaboration. You can't have a stage show without a
no,
team of
no,
people,
yeah,
and
yeah,
all of those people are essential to the whole thing coming off the way you want it to, right? The
yeah.
story being told, the audience being satisfied and joyful or tearful or whatever they are, the actors and performers feeling fulfilled and satisfied
Hmm.
that they get to do the work that they love to do,
Hmm.
I think there's no greater gift. And that's why I do this show, Just One You. Do what makes you happy, do what lights you up, what fires you up, and you will have a good life. Just a theory.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, let's explain that on a bigger scale. Let's understand that from God's perspective, right? It's like, imagine when Trower talks about we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, right? Everything we do, whenever we bake a cake,
Yeah.
whenever we bake a cake or write a story or just, do like make a meal, we're part of the creative process. We're a microcosm of what God goes through every minute. You know what I mean? And the joy you experience when that cake comes out and it's perfect. It's not burned. It's perfect. And it's like the joy you receive from having done that, because it starts up here. You imagine it. You infuse it with love, right? And you go through that creative process in everything you do. But to be able to understand it is like, wow, God is really happy right now. Not only me, but God is really the universe.
Well, that's because
the
God is
universe
you.
is vibrating over this cake.
God is
Loving this.
you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that we forget sometimes. I mean, we've been taught that there's some kind of power outside of us, that there's something to worry about. But the truth is that this creative force, this universe that we live in, is energy, and it's intelligent, and it's everywhere present. So it's right here where I am. It's right there where you are. And if we can acknowledge and kind of relax into our own uniqueness, what happens is we share in the world in a way that is uplifting and powerful and positive. Doesn't mean there aren't bumps in the road, because yes, there are. And we ride them, and we know that this too shall pass when those moments come, because there's still within us that strength, that knowing that somehow there's something bigger than my ego running this universe, and I'm some part of it. And if I could just be me for a minute, wow, what would that be like? And it makes it safe for others to actually be who they are too, right? We create belonging, because everybody gets to be their perfect, imperfect self.
Keep talking, man. Keep talking.
Talk to me.
What do you say? How do I accept, add to what you said? How beautiful that is. Yes.
Because, we're on a journey without a destination.
I know.
I know.
And that was another thing that studying Troward on a different level was like, oh wow, it really doesn't end when we leave the clay. You know what I mean? It really doesn't end. And
No,
if we can incorporate all this once we go beyond, we bring that with us and we continue the journey. Hearing it that way gives me great comfort.
Well, that's the interesting thing about reading some of these writers of days gone by, the Thomas Trowards, the Ralph Waldo Emerson, the Emma Curtis Hopkins, Deepak Chopra. Well, Deepak Chopra's still with us. But when we go back to the older ones, Phineas Parker's Quimby, Emma Curtis Hopkins, like their writings were very, very rich. But what's fascinating is they're still practical today. They still speak to us now.
Like Shakespeare.
Yeah. I love that feeling. And I love the idea of the spirituality that we teach is so inclusive and accepting of everything, all faiths and non-faith. Like I've had atheists in my center who love what I do. So it's like there's nobody left out, which is what I truly, truly love, is that it really is inclusive. And all of the work that I do, my volunteer work or my volunteer work, I think I do a lot of volunteer work. All of it is about creating belonging. That's
beautiful.
my goal. Let's knock down the white
Beautiful.
supremacy model and create a place of belonging for all people. Animals, nature, all of it, like coming together. I'm vegan, and it's important to me that all of this life that we're living is done in harmony with all life. It's the only way we're going to survive. Otherwise, we're going to destroy the planet. Well, we won't destroy the planet. We'll just make it unlivable for us, and then it'll resurge. It'll be fine. COVID showed
Yeah.
us
Yeah. Yeah, but patience at the same time, please.
that's something that I work on all the time.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
Patience.
goodness.
I'm working on it.
I know. But to,
Yeah,
to really acknowledge the whole world as a work in progress,
it
and to
is.
see that we're still young.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, forgive me for bringing it up, but I'm fascinated with the whole extraterrestrial thing, and are they watching us? Are they here? And you hear stories about they come in physical form, but they really are ethereal and stuff. And forgive me for going back to Troward and how he talks about that the evolution of mankind is to really transcend the physical and
Yeah,
build a new physical body. And he uses the resurrection of Jesus as an example.
yeah,
And whether you're of that mindset or not, but just the idea of, oh wow, if that really is for everybody, then we do have. I mean, it could happen like that.
yeah.
It could happen like that.
Good.
And then at the same time, just to wrap your brain around it and go, oh man, it really is eternal, isn't it? It's like, wow, it doesn't necessarily have to be eternal in the ether. We can build a new body, literally build a new body. And so when I think of ETs and aliens, I go, isn't that where we're headed? And aren't they exactly where we are, maybe, you know, 5 millennia ago or a million years ago or whatever?
Well,
Like,
to
I don't
imagine,
know. I'm
yeah,
theorizing now, but
of
it's
course.
the science fiction guy in me that I played an alien in a movie. I don't know if you knew that, but I played an alien
Galaxy
on in
Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Yeah, so I have an affinity for extraterrestrials.
It's so funny because when I mean, I saw that movie a long time ago,
Yeah.
and when I was interviewing you last time, Deja brought that up, and I went, "Oh, that is you." I had no idea. I had no idea that you were in that movie.
That's
Um,
hysterical.
but I mean, to consider that we are the only
Oh, can we
species in the
start with
universe,
that? Yeah, let's start with
that's
that.
that's a little bit arrogant, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so
I
too.
really think so.
I think
It's
so too. I
Yeah,
think so
so
too.
to explore the possibility that there is life in this universe beyond planet Earth, I think that's entirely
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
Uh,
And I'm not talking about, ooh, there was water on Mars. I'm I'm talking about intelligent, evolved, an
yeah,
evolved species. Because if what Troward is saying is true and it's connected to some glimmer of truth
yeah.
of the evolution of man and how we are to evolve, to really see peace on Earth, it doesn't look like just us bumping our heads the way we've been. It really has to transcend the physical, I
And
think. Anyway,
I
yeah,
agree. I agree. And I
yeah.
think the other thing is that we have to get more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the great challenges facing humanity today is that nobody really wants to be uncomfortable. We're okay if somebody else is, but we're not so crazy about it if it impacts us. And so we'll talk about diversity and inclusion and anti-racism and stuff. And then we're okay with that until it bumps up against our paradigm. And the minute it inconveniences one of us, that's when we go, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Can't go there. Like there's something where we're still living in the idea of separation somehow, that somehow our lives don't bump up against each other, and they do. And I think if we can come to understand that we are all a part of this life force, this
Yeah.
universe. We're all some
Yeah.
part of it. And our thinking moves the energy, and everything we think, say, and do is impacting not only our own life, but all life. That there is a responsibility that we have to show up in a more authentic way, and to be willing to be vulnerable, to make mistakes, to step in the shit and go, "Oops, you know, I could do
Yeah.
that better."
I think
Change
I
our
think
thinking.
that I think that all starts with looking at our history
Yeah,
and saying I am a part of that history.
yeah,
I am as responsible as any party that was a part of that two,
yeah.
3,000 years ago or 200 years ago. And
And today, because there's systems in place that support our
yeah,
whiteness. And so I know that.
yeah,
And so I look around, and you want to know,
yeah,
because white person from a white background, white
yeah,
family, white city. Well, it's not white anymore, but it sure
yeah,
was when I grew up. It's like there's a consciousness that I have, that I simply have. And I am working with it on a daily basis to notice when I need to shift my perception of something. And it was as simple as going into a hotel and during COVID, and they would separate the pens and stuff. So they gave me a pen, and the pen that I was able to use was in a container on my left, and then there was another container for dirty pens on my right. So I take the pen out and I sign the thing, and I automatically drop it in the other container. And then I looked and I went, one is white and one is black. Such a subtle thing. But I was so disappointed in myself for so automatically following the system. We have to change it all. We need to blow it up. Not in the literal sense, I mean. Shifting consciousness, a big shift in consciousness. And
yeah,
how do we do it differently, where we can be respectful of all people and respectful
yeah,
of ourselves as we journey along to discover new ways?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it all goes back. Look, uh, I'm a white man. I understand my innate privilege.
Mhm.
You know, I get all that.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, uh, the, to transcend even that,
Mhm.
I guess I mean, it really does. I mean, you're bringing it right back down to what is right now, Rev.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
we can't even hide behind the spirit itself. It's like, yeah,
Mm-mm.
that is going on. There is, a, you know, I don't even
And
know what to
even
call it, but it's just it's 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 separate.
it is
That
separate.
that
It
that's the
brings
that's the epitome of being separate.
Yeah, yeah,
And there are powers
yeah,
that keep it separate.
exactly.
I don't know. I'm not going to take that on. I'm
I
not
have.
gonna. I know you have. I know you have. But your journey has started where everyone's journey is with yourself.
It's the only place we can work
You know. And,
with
but
ourselves.
as one becomes more comfortable with that, it'll
Yeah,
expand. It'll expand in
yes,
time. You
yeah, it
know.
will. It
I,
really,
I mean.
really.
I mean. I come from the theater. It
Mhm.
was. It was. We were brought up seeing everybody, seeing their soul first and their
Yeah,
skin or
yeah.
their sexual preferences beyond. That was like it was
Who
like
cares?
it was like, hey man, you're a good human being. Come here, we're gonna play together.
Exactly,
It's like we
exactly.
never grew up in the theater. We were still those children in the playground that just accepted everybody that
Ah,
wanted to play. You want to play?
yeah, don't you love
Don't
that?
hurt anybody. Just come in and play.
Yeah, That's
And then
that's
when you try to bring that into the rest of the world where everybody is uh much more binary, you know what I mean? It's just like it's this way.
yeah.
And we're trying to introduce non-binary. It's like, I mean, you're going to get resistance.
You are. And that's okay too. It's like, we're in a learning, we're in a growing, we're in awakening. And this journey is without a destination. We're doing our best to create belonging, and we do it one person at a time. And we begin within ourselves,
Yeah.
finding that place in ourselves where we can accept ourselves as we are
Yeah.
without judgment and criticism
Yeah.
and thinking that somehow we're not enough, and it
Yeah.
has to be in there.
But
And
I
then
know you well enough to know that the not destination stuff. You're fooling yourself with that. I know you better than that. I know you have a destination in mind. I know you can't fool me.
bring
You have
on
a,
the peace, baby.
you know what I mean? It's like I know what you see, how you see this world. It's like that's a clear destination.
There
That's a
is.
clear destination.
And on that note, we're going to take a little commercial break. Don't go away, everybody. We're going to be right back, having a little more laughs and giggles. You're
Yeah.
watching The Joy Show. Be right back.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience? Or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
Welcome back to The Joy Show. And I've got my great guest, Enrico Colantoni, with me today. And we're having a little bit of fun, a little bit of controversy, a little bit.
Is it controversial?
Well,
Two white people talking about inequalities
white
and
supremacy.
well, I mean we are, and it's like
We are.
I mean I don't know how I can help the cause other than admitting to being part of the problem.
And I think that's the
You know what I
beginning.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being willing to, I think for me, it's being willing to learn, um, and to learn of my own accord. Number one, coming to terms with my beliefs and attitudes, my privilege, which is a little less than yours because, I'm a girl.
Right. I know.
So, I have, areas of otherness that come up every now and again,
Yeah.
but,
Well,
that's
white men with hair sort of have,
just a little step above
they're a
you.
step above me too. So yeah.
I don't know. Bald is kind of in these days, so I'm not so
Well,
sure that's a bad
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But
yeah,
40 years ago, you might have done a comb over or something. But but today, people shave it off. I
yeah. Right.
think for me, when I think about how we show up in the world, I think the biggest thing is getting okay with who we are as individuals, and that from a place of self-respect and self-love and acceptance of our gifts, our talents, and our darkness, we are able then to be with other people in a more welcoming way. I think it's our insecurity that causes us to exert power over someone else because we're trying to elevate our own feelings of brokenness. Just a thought.
You know what? It's a thought. I mean, I hate to put it down, but it's not a new thought, Rev. Of
No,
course,
it's not a new one.
it stems from, a sense of belonging. I mean, we're right back to, do you have to force belonging onto people, or do you feel just like you naturally? Because if you feel like you're not missing anything, if you're coming from lack, the world is a shitty place,
It is. Yes.
But if you're coming from, I have everything, man.
Yeah.
I I have everything,
Yeah.
and then
Then you can meet people where they
coming
are.
from there's more than enough. But then we go right back to the award shows. Suddenly
Yes.
there's one winner. Oh no, there's not enough to go around for everybody. What do you mean?
Yeah,
Creativity is abundant. It's all abundant. Love is abundant.
it is.
Money. When you start thinking in terms of how much there is, not just in the world, but is waiting to be manifested.
Yeah. Everything is available everywhere at all points in space.
If we can wrap our brains around that,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, you know what? Yeah, you're good. You're welcome to come into my yard and,
Yeah.
pitch a tent. It's like, go ahead.
Well, that's the
Go
thing. Like,
ahead.
all we have to do is be human, right?
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. We're already human. And we haven't gotten that right.
Well, I think the human part is the hard part because we're spiritual beings having
Yeah.
this human experience.
Yeah.
And so we're infinite in all that we are. And yet we've been put in this container and it feels limited.
Wow.
And that's the
Wow.
illusion.
The-
And when we get comfortable in the skin, then we're comfortable with each other. And then the
Yeah.
world just
I
feels,
know.
you
know.
know,
But you know what? It's like, can we talk about the hypocrisy of that too? We can say that we're coming from love and we don't judge, but let's keep the homeless away from my neighborhood.
well, you know what?
You know what
That's
I'm saying?
the
It's
thing is,
like,
mhm. See, this is where I look at the whole idea of inclusivity and diversity and all of this training that people do.
and
And then they
hypocrisy
get on
too.
the subway and somebody sits down beside them that maybe hasn't showered in a while and they
Yeah.
get up and move.
Yeah.
Or a person of color sits
Yeah.
beside them and they get up and leave. Like, they, or in church, I've seen in church where somebody comes in and not in my church, not in my center. I don't have a church, I have a center. Not in my spiritual center, but I have seen in churches where, a street person has come in and they've been, sort of shunned to the back or kind of, could you leave? Because there's that discomfort. And I got to say, I'm so proud of my 18-year-old daughter because we had a conversation about this the other day. And she talked about if she sits down on the subway and somebody sits down beside her, or she sits beside somebody who, maybe they're a street person, maybe they haven't showered in a long time, whatever the case may be, she will not under any circumstance get up and move because that would be disrespectful. And I was like, whoa, you need to talk to some of the adults I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have judged that, I met a woman on the street in Calgary a couple of years ago when I was visiting my family, and, walking along, reached in my pocket to give her some money, and she commented on me being kind, and I went, but by the grace of God, I could be you,
Yeah.
like turn the tables just for a second and I could be you. So why would I treat you disrespectfully? We had a lovely chat and she was surprised that someone would show her kindness. And I thought, wow. Our world needs an injection of kindness, I
I
think.
understand. I understand all of that, right? But you know what? You're challenging me here, just
Good.
based on everything I'm learning.
Hmm.
And at what point is the message clearer than that? What point, if everything we study here in Science of Mind and Unity Faith and whatever, it's like the
Hmm.
whole thing of the oneness of it and how
Yeah.
our minds are connected to creating our reality. If we think positive, we get positive. Isn't that the real message we need to be sharing? That even though you are homeless and you have nothing, that there's a part of them that doesn't understand the truth. That it,
Or
you know
or they're
what,
experiencing absolute freedom
or
from
that, or we give them
from the restrictions that
creating a life
you
that they
have
have.
in your life, right?
Look, my son was homeless for a good year there a few years ago, and there wasn't anything he was willing to do to change that
Hmm.
because if he was being taken care of.
Yeah,
There's a system in place that really helped him along. I'm grateful that I said there's so many angels
there are.
in every city around the world just willing to help and being available to people who really just, you know, uh,
Yeah,
want the help, but without actually saying I need help. But
yeah,
when they're actually at a place where they say I want help, there's a whole village just waiting to embrace them. Because
absolutely.
no one was willing to help my son. Well, it's like, unless he wants to, you know what I mean? So
Well,
even on a societal level, we wait for them to make the choice.
yeah. And
And if they're
sometimes they
not
also,
making the choice, then it's just like, sorry, man, I can't help you.
and the thing is, they might not realize they have choice. And that's where the work that I do is so important because I want to remind people every day that we always are at choice. That the thoughts that we think and our beliefs about people and the world, all of it is creating the world that we live in. And I remember somebody, I don't know where it was, but there was a meeting of mayors in Canada, and one of them said, well, we solved the problem of homelessness. And the rest of them are going, well, how'd you do that? And they said, well, we gave them a home. The simplest answer is always right. And the interesting thing is that as we treat people, as we treat people like we would want to be treated, what happens is it elevates consciousness. And so when I meet somebody on the street, I don't just walk away from them. I don't cross over to the other side or look in the opposite direction so I don't have to make contact. What I want to do is make contact. And whether or not I have money to give or not, I want to be the change that I want to see in my world. I want to receive people. And sometimes it's a challenge because, people can be really different from us. And it's like, well, how do I, cross that bridge? Like, where do I find the connection? But every day, my goal is in some way to connect with the people around me, the ones that I come in contact with. And I've gone into, the grocery store, the drugstore, and the teller's having a bad day, right? Throwing stuff through the scanner, going to, you're in my way, not even acknowledging that you're there, and taking the time to notice their name tag and say, oh, thank you, Mary, so much. That was you're doing a great job. I appreciate you. And all of a sudden they just wake up. It's like all of a sudden they know you're there. And so we can grumble and complain that the world is broken and flawed, or we can infuse it with some positivity and some generosity and some compassion. We can practice random acts of kindness. We can show up in a way that begins to create change, but it starts with us, because if we're uncomfortable in our own skin, we're not going to want to connect because we're going to be too afraid. And fear is a big block.
Yeah, I get that. No, I'm trying to discern the common denominator in what we're talking about. And
Mhm.
it doesn't matter where you are, who you are. I think we can all agree we've been allowed free will. But what does that mean? We can choose,
Yes, we
and we
can.
have chosen.
Hmm.
When you say, some of us are incapable of making a choice, yes,
Well, it's not that
there
they're
are
incapable. They're not aware that they can. There's a
well,
difference.
there's also, I mean, the mental,
Mm.
the mental health, the brain health.
Oh,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? It's
Yeah.
just that
And
that's
that's where our compassion
you
is necessary,
yes,
right?
you know what I mean? It's just like you know what? I grapple with that.
Yeah.
When we talk about choice, when somebody really is just not
Yeah.
able to see the difference.
Hmm. Yeah. How do we treat
And
them? What do we
yeah,
do?
you know what I mean? And so that's where, it all goes back to the work that I need to do with me, on me, and really discover that,
Yeah.
allow that compassion to come out and know.
Yeah.
I mean, it has everything to do with my son
Yeah.
and looking at him through a different lens. Because you do, parents have expectations.
We
You
do.
watch them; they're born, and you go, "Oh, they're going to be a doctor. They're going to be, oh, a lawyer, an actor, like that, like that." And it's just like, oh, and it's like, no,
No, it doesn't happen.
no,
They're going to be
no,
themselves.
yeah, they're going to be themselves.
Yeah. The biggest challenge in parenting is parenting the child you have, not the
Uh,
child you wanted or
I know,
expected or
I
thought you would
know, I know. And you're right; it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with old perceptions
have.
and discovering new ways of looking at
Yeah.
things. And
Absolutely. As a parent, the greatest thing we can do is discover our children, have a curiosity about them and discover them.
yeah,
That's our that's
yeah,
our that's our job.
yeah,
Create a container where they can explore the world and find their identity.
yeah,
Let them stumble, let them fall, but be there as their loving support, accepting them as they are, where they are, in whatever shape they're in, as
yeah.
difficult as that is some days, because we wanna rescue, we wanna fix. But in the moment that we start rescuing and fixing each other, what we're saying is they're broken. And the truth is we're all created perfect, whole, and complete. So although the behavior might be less, if I can see the wholeness, then the possibility for them to begin to see it as well changes the game. It becomes a
Yeah,
new journey.
yeah, man. Well, yeah, yeah, yes, 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 and yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, and yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, and yes. I mean, the lessons he teaches me that I
uh,
learn
yeah,
having him as my son, like, and my daughter too. Just children in general, the lessons they teach me.
yeah, they do.
Um,
And soon grandchildren.
oof,
I'm a
please,
great
man.
grandmother.
I know you're a great grandmother. Yeah. Oh my God.
The children, they have a way of being that is so far beyond our limitations, right? They don't live in limitation. When they're little, they live in true expression, and we shut it down because I don't know, we get uncomfortable. What's the neighbor gonna think if they see you doing that? It's like, if you make noise in church or something, or on the bus, if you point out somebody who looks different, a little kid will go, "Oh, mom, look at that person." Mom gets all embarrassed and it's out, I want my kids to be perfect. Well, they are. They're perfect expressions of the divine life, and if we could see them, what would that do in the world? Like, how would that be better? Khalil Gibran writes about how we are, children are not ours. They come through us, but we don't own them. They need to find their life, their expression, their journey. And
Yeah.
as parents, that's tough because we want to keep them safe and we want to protect them and we want them to never make our mistakes. I don't know about you, but I made a couple.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I know, Rev. The psychology of parenthood or just being a human being, it's like I just can't even fathom it anymore. I can't
Yeah,
fathom it anymore. It's like, yes, we all make mistakes,
yeah,
and that's the journey.
it is.
And it's, you know, if I want to believe everything I'm learning through you
Yeah.
and through this teaching, I want a new mindset and a new way of looking at everything that up until now I would look at as my mistake, through
Mm,
shame, through guilt, through, oh, I could have done it better. It's like, no, please
couldn't.
let me look at it all. And when I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I accept you, I trust you, I love you, I see you, then I
Yeah,
can look at everybody else in the same way. It's like
that's the key.
I it's like I just want compassion. That's
Yeah,
all I want. It's like, you know what? Because before meeting you, it was like, shit, I want that car, I want that house, I want the roommate, they this much money. And it's like, I'll get all that somehow. But what I really want is to see the world through God's eyes. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
And not a judging God. Not, I mean, the
Nope, no,
God
that
we're
one
talking
doesn't
about.
exist
We're talking
actually.
about we're talking about the universal energy of all things
Yeah,
that
all things
is
are good.
is amoral, and it's just like, I'm just it's just busy building. You know what I mean? It's busy expressing and feeling alive. You know what I mean? And it's just love and joy, and it's just like, ooh,
Yeah,
peace and perfection. It's like, okay,
yeah.
let me
Well, that
see. Yeah, no, go
we're,
on.
we're finding our way, and none of us knows what we don't know. And so every day we're learning and discovering and finding something new to celebrate or rejoice in. And we have a choice about where we look in any given moment. And we can look for problems, difficulty, challenges. We can compete with one another. We can go, oh, I'm better than you, or you're better than me. Or we can go, wow, tell me about you. Tell me about you. What makes your heart sing? That's what I want to know today. What makes your heart sing?
Now you're asking me? We've been
Yeah.
talking for an hour. Now we're going to say goodbye. Now you want to know what makes my heart sing?
Yeah, yeah. What makes your heart sing?
Talking to you, Rev.
Uh, like that's what I want to know about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
No.
why I do this show. I just want to talk to people.
I think I would, it's like if my parents saw something in me as a young boy, and they knew I I wanted to be a priest.
Mm.
I
Oh, that's
they they
interesting.
they wanted me to be a priest, and I even verbalized it throughout my early childhood and
Oh,
into my young adulthood.
and here
But
you
then I
are.
discovered the new church, right? The new church, the theater was it was everything. And now, even having done that, I discovered that the whole reason for wanting to be an actor was to find that gateway home.
Exactly. And here
And it's
you
the
are.
same thing. And here I am, and that's what gives me joy, Rev. It's like,
Oh,
how do I express this? How do
mhm.
I how do I help young actors, young artists who just have such low self-esteem but think they have something to say? How can I help them?
Yeah.
And
You were at York this week, weren't you?
I was yesterday,
Yeah,
yesterday, and it's remarkable how they're not being taught that what they're learning is the key to, you know, well, they're learning to express themselves essentially.
yeah,
But the same thing you do on stage, you do in your real life. You
exactly.
know, you just that's how one approaches one's life. Is
Mm,
I'm going to stay connected. I'm going to look you in the eye. I'm going to make you feel positive.
Mhm.
Of course, because in hopes that you and I will have this amazing game of catch.
Yeah,
When that happens, when you and I are just talking and we're throwing the ball back and forth and we're just playing,
it's awesome.
that, that's what we do on stage when you trust your actors. Why is it so difficult in life?
And it shouldn't
Less
be.
and less,
Same thing.
yeah, less and less, but
Yeah. I think
no,
that's, what brings me joy is uh, just being, being with people's stories, like hearing the pathway that brings anyone to where they go. Like it's, I think that's why I started this show, is the idea that each one of us is unique. And if we can find our voice, whatever it is, and honor it and respect it and love it and share it, then we win at this game, because we get to be joyful. Doesn't matter if we're digging a ditch or if we're acting in Broadway or if we're doing an internet interview show. It doesn't matter what we're doing. If we're cooking dinner, I watched that show, The Evolving Vegan. That food looks so good. I think I
I'm
gotta
not
make
ready yet. I'm not ready for veganism.
I'm gonna have to go to LA, where he was at all these restaurants going, oh my gosh, I gotta go try all this food down there. So
I like veganism as an alternative to my regular, because I'm an omnivore, right? I like eating it, and vegan is a nice, it's just a nice change. Can't eat meat all the time.
you eat all the time.
I mean, that just isn't humane.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. You're so funny. But,
All right.
that's the thing, is in life, we change, we move, what's happening today is going to be different tomorrow, and we are evolving. Life is moving forward, whether we like it or not. And we can, dig our heels in and struggle with what is, or we can kind of get in the rhythm of it and try to figure out, what I need to know in order to navigate life easier. And that's what I love about Science Mind, is that we are learning to navigate life, recognizing that our thoughts actually create the experiences we have. So if I think it's a shitty day,
We go back to choice.
it's all
If we
choice.
know that, and we can activate that and see our lives the way an artist sees something.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Exactly.
an artist is intentional in their creation. They get the impulse, and then
Yeah.
they start playing the music or painting that picture or drawing that, writing that story, writing that song,
Mm-hmm.
dancing. They follow that impulse,
Exactly.
but they choose to do it, and it
They choose.
becomes intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Let's live our lives like that.
Oh, wouldn't that be beautiful?
Woo!
Oh, well, thank you for being here today. I always
It's
love
like I
having
never see you, Rev. It's like I just don't see enough of you.
I know. We just pass in the wind every
I
now and
know.
again.
I know.
Well, I'm really grateful for the conversation, and I love where things go whenever we have a conversation, because it's interesting and fun. And I'm really hopeful for our guests today that something said or done will spark something in you that will allow you to live your very best life. And Rico, continue to
Yeah,
be
Rev.
individual that you are. You bring
Thank
light
you.
in our world, and it's needed. And I'm grateful
Thank
to
you.
know you.
I love you, Rev. I love you.
I love you
I
too.
love you and the spirit that comes from you, through you, as you. My goodness, thank you.
Bless you. Well, that's the Joy Show for this week, everybody. We'll be back next week. And so stay tuned, stay wonderful, and love your true, unique self, because believe me, you are worth it. Bye for now.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute
at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.